What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Lob It Up Podcast. We are your hosts, Tobias, Chris, and Siavash. Siavash, how you doing this week, my man? How you doing today?
I'm good. It's been a nice day out. It's a little windy. I've been able to get out. Probably going to go to the gym a little later, but it's been a nice day off. Just staying in bed and trying to enjoy life. How you doing, Chris? I heard you came back from the gym.
Yeah, came in from the gym a little late, so we got this podcast started a little bit late today, boys. So my apologies. Training with my boy over at House of Performance Fitness here in Durham, probably Durham's premium place to get in shape. And
Sponsored.
Yeah, sponsored. Maybe not yet. Maybe
Where's the chairs?
But yeah, no, I had that. So it was a good workout today and whatnot. It really pushed me. And I thought I was gonna die. And they're just all like real simple, like little things, but it was good. It was good, man. Good
So you got a good
Chris doing push-ups.
Yeah,
man. I couldn't. He had me finish with push-ups, and he's like, "Okay, just bang out 15." And I got to like 6, and I'm like,
You're like 15.
Yeah,
what?
that's a big number. Relax.
yeah. You're like, can I break it up into half
Yeah.
or maybe like thirds, please? Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, it was brutal. And
So you gotta
push-ups. It was like angled push-ups, so it's like it should technically be easier.
sure, yeah.
But fuck.
So you got a good pump in, and you felt the adrenaline going today, and I think we released these episodes on Wednesday, but for those that were watching the game on Sunday, there was another Malice in the Palace type 2.0
don't call it Malice in the
of
Palace
this of this
2.0.
of this modern day world. That would be the Malice in the Palace of this modern day world in a softer NBA, in a softer world climate. But Isaiah Stewart of the Pistons also had his adrenaline going. Obviously,
Yeah.
for those that don't know, he was. They were waiting for a free throw. LeBron came back, connected with Isaiah in the face, got a little cut up, started bleeding. Altercation went back and forth, and it turned into kind of a sprinting match. It looks like Isaiah Stewart maybe should be in the NFL instead of the NBA, because this guy was like
this guy had
ducking and
just
dodging.
I just stepped on my take of the week.
What's that?
That was going to be my take of the week, that Isaiah Stewart should have been a linebacker.
I mean,
he's
fair
not big enough to be
I
a
would say,
linebacker, brother.
yeah, I'd say a running back for sure.
No, he's too tall to be a running back.
But can you
Not a
imagine
wide
him just
receiver.
trucking through?
Truck.
What would you put him? Okay, here you go. If you had to take Isaiah Stewart, where are you slotting him on the field? Tight end, maybe?
As he is right now, yeah, maybe a tight end or even like a receiver because he's so tall and like lanky. But maybe threw on some size and maybe put him as a linebacker or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and you can't just try to have him as a running back. The man's a giant walking target.
But he's trucking through. He's trucking through.
But he's trucking through basketball players who aren't
That's
and
true.
NBA staff who aren't trained to knock your block off.
That's fine. Well, were they even stopping? Because I did see a picture of a security guard really doing the most. He's just like this. Like the viral video that went, and there's like this security guard, like a doorman, and he's like checking people before they go in the arena, and he's just doing that was basically what he was doing.
Man,
he's like, I don't get paid enough for this.
Yeah, that picture is the poster for this is above my pay grade. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like, this is above me. Speak to my
Yeah, I don't think he will have a job after that picture goes viral.
Was he a security or was he a cop? I thought he was a cop.
It looked like
he had
a
gun.
cop, which is maybe even worse. To be
Yeah.
honest with you. But so that was crazy. That was a crazy game this past week, and like we were saying before we jumped on the podcast. Actually, we were talking about it in another podcast. I don't know if it was in the last episode or whatnot, but it goes back to the point where I was saying that these younger players in the NBA now, they don't care or respect these older OGs.
No.
A lot of guys maybe in the mid 2000s or whatever, or the early 2010s would maybe be fearful to go head to head versus a guy like Kobe, getting Kobe's grill. Not a guy
Jordan,
like Matt Barnes,
stuff
but
like that.
I feel like a lot of these guys aren't going at these older vets they are going at these older vets like a Russ, like a LeBron. They're not scared to go up against them, to get in their face, to kind of have an altercation. So that's just another point this year that we've seen that.
I agree.
Anyway, so Sivash, you had mentioned that I stepped on your take of the week, so maybe let's just jump right into our takes of the week. And while I took yours, I'll give you some time to percolate and think of another one. And I'll start with you, Chris. What would you say your take of the week, whether it be from the games this past week, from the games looking forward to this week, or maybe something to do with this season? What would you say your take this week is?
Oh, my take this week. I guess my take this week would really just be like just watching the Bucks. The Bucks and like again, going back to like the Lakers teams like that, teams who have won championships in the last couple of years, and it's like what why are you guys so hot and cold? Like what's going on? It's I guess between the Bucks and the Lakers have had the biggest, I guess, roster change, whereas like I don't think the Bucks had too much of like roster changes going on. So it's like realistically you should still be running with that same championship squad, but you're playing like doo-doo. And you're getting beat out by these teams that have no business beating you. And you're getting blown out. So like I don't know. That's just my
Yeah, if we look at the past couple games with the Bucks, they are on a 3-game win streak. They did beat the Magic, the Thunder, and the Lakers, who are all teams that they should be beating.
They should be.
The Magic and the Thunder for sure. The Lakers is it's a marquee matchup, and the Lakers haven't been doing too well as it is. But prior to that, they lost to the Hawks by 20.
Yeah.
They lost to a struggling Celtics team, so it could go either way. But it's not like they faced a really easy schedule. Before that was the Knicks, the Sixers. Like, they've faced some decent teams, but I think sometimes what it is they've figured out a way to stop that team because they have stayed the same.
Yeah.
So there isn't something that the opposing team's defense needs to try to figure out. There isn't something new. We look at the East. Chicago looks much different, and they're first in the East. So
Chicago.
Shout out
didn't DeMar just pass Jordan for something like most points scored in like 16 games?
I don't know. That'd be pretty sick though.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure Jordan was like 405 and like DeMar was like 406 or something.
As a bull.
As a bull.
That's pretty cool.
The most points in 16 games, and DeMar just passed him.
And he's been balling. DeMar's been going off, but
disgusting.
So that's exactly to the point of teams are still trying to figure out how to defend the Chicago Bulls. Even the Washington Wizards. That's a different team. They don't have Russell anymore. They have a deeper team. There's more guys that they need to guard. There's a different defense that they need to throw at. Miami, they've been basically the same team as last year, but they've added a guy in Kyle Lowry. So I think a lot of these teams that stay the same, while yes, it's a good idea because you're bringing that exact same championship roster, back to the fold for the next year. It's also easier for defenses to pick them apart because they know what it takes to make you lose, and they know what it takes to make you win.
Speaking of though the defense and talking about the Bulls, and then back to Lakers, I think it was actually like a big mistake to let Caruso go for the Lakers, because looking at this man's defense, this man has been clamps all season so far. Like, his defense has been phenomenal, and the Lakers defense is just doo-doo right now too. Like, I think if they still had Caruso and Caruso's like level of intensity in his defense, they might have won a few more games than they have like now.
I mean, I'm still on the boat of they should have went and got Buddy Hield versus Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
I think they needed shooting. We've seen the success that LeBron has in his career when he has shooters around him. Russell Westbrook's not a shooter. They're very similar players. Sure, it sounds great to have Russell Westbrook. Sure, it looks great, another Hall of Famer on this roster full of Hall of Famers. But when you need to pass it off for a clutch shot, Russell Westbrook's not going to be your guy to do that, and Buddy Hield would be. So, it's all 2020 or whatever it's called. How do you say it? What's the expression? Hindsight is 2020. Yeah. I was thinking like my mind's still in like COVID 2020. I was like gonna say COVID. It's all COVID 2020. Yeah, exactly. But hindsight is 2020. It's easier to critique things afterwards. But I just think, yeah, there was some choices. Even, honestly, we've been seeing Dennis Schroeder lately with,
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown being injured. Dennis Schroeder's taken a step up. I think that's a great marriage for both Boston and for Dennis Schroeder. And shout out to the Boston Celtics graphics man or whatever. Dennis Schroeder was doing a post-game interview after they played the Lakers, and he wrote in, like, he custom wrote in, "Y'all paying Russ $44 million,
Yeah.
LOL." Like, just savage. I loved it, but yeah, it's interesting. I think 100% if they had Caruso, it'd be a different look for the
Yeah.
Lakers.
But let me ask you, would Buddy Hield and Dennis Schroeder be ready to square up if Isaiah Stewart was running towards them?
Maybe not. But the thing is, I don't think they'd be in that position because they wouldn't have had to fight from being down, so badly to a Pistons team. I think they would have already been up. But
I'll take this over that. This is much more entertaining.
sure, I mean, it's also entertaining for me as a Clippers fan. I love when the Lakers aren't doing well, so I also agree. But I mean, for the success of the Lakers and for the sanity of the Lakers fans out there and Chris Pennett,
Yeah, buddy, he ain't squaring up. Looking at those perfect chompers, he ain't messing those up. No way.
Yeah.
He ain't squaring up. He's like,
his movie comparable is Donkey from Shrek.
fuck up.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
Honestly,
I know what you're referring to.
Edit that out. Edit that out. Somebody's gonna come for Tobias. Someone's gonna come and
okay.
cancel Tobias.
I want the smoke. It's good. Sivash, your take of the week. Have you had time to percolate and think of another
I
one?
didn't know you guys were going to throw me into this position that I have to come up with 2 takes of the week now. Like, what is this?
I got another one if you still need time. Or I got one.
No, I'll go with one that I've been thinking about for some time. And this comes back from the game from last week, I think it was. The Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Golden State Warriors. And the Warriors won, I believe, 37. They had 37-3 or 37-9 run, something along those lines. And they won the game. And all I could think about that whole time watching that run was, is Steph Curry the greatest offensive player we've ever seen?
Hard to say.
Yeah.
I think he could be in the category, but when I think of the greatest offensive player we've ever seen, it's actually a teammate of Steph Curry's, and it's Kevin Durant.
Yeah, when I think of like greatest like scorer, greatest like something like it's always going to Kevin Durant.
Yeah,
But I think
100%.
Curry will be the greatest point guard to probably like ever play the game. Because if you had to give me a lineup of point guards, like who else are you gonna pick over?
Magic's the guy, but I mean, it's hard because we're talking about eras again.
Yeah.
But like Magic, when we look at the definition of a point guard, and it's okay for positions to change. We're playing positionless basketball now, and Steph Curry's done something that very few players have ever done in their career in the NBA. LeBron is one of those guys. Mike's one of those guys. Magic's one of those guys. Kareem. He's changed the structure of how you play the game. He's changed how youth is. They grow up with the game. But when I look at the image of a point guard, the position of a point guard, the job of a point guard, Magic's always going to get that wave for me. But like again, it's no knock to Steph. Like I would be okay if someone said that Steph is the greatest point guard of all time. I would understand.
Okay, that's fair.
No, going back to our original point, I still no. You know what? This man Kevin Durant is a great offensive player, but I think he's great in his vacuum. We saw how he could be shut down when he was on the OKC and the Warriors basically took away every other player. And they just doubled him and they just kept trying to take the ball out of his hand. With Steph, the way he plays the game off ball and he takes the attention away from himself and everybody else just drags to him. That's the way I look at it. You guys got to go watch that fourth quarter, man. My guy Ben Taylor, Thinking Basketball, is a great YouTube channel. You guys got to check it out, that video. Because he did a whole video on that fourth quarter. And how Steph Curry was responsible for every single point in that fourth quarter. And when I watched that,
plus
I'm
minus,
like, plus minus is just a stat that they measure it. That how successful you were on the court, how the score went up and down when you were on the court. But just looking at film, looking at the footage, how For example, coming off this screen, if he didn't fake right there, the other guy wouldn't have gone under it, and now this guy wouldn't be open. You guys got to watch that video, man. It's incredible.
Okay.
And when I watched that video, and when I watched Steph in general, all I can think of was who else can do what he's doing off ball. And when he has the ball in his hand, there was a picture yesterday. I think they were playing the Raptors, and the Raptors were guarding him at half court when he didn't even have the ball.
Well, you have to though, right? With Steph's shooting ability,
That's what I'm saying.
You have to almost pick him up at half because Steph is not someone who's afraid to pull from half.
That's
He
true.
will, and he consistently hits from half. Whereas, like, you know, you've got people like, oh, logo LeBron, or like other people pulling up from half and stuff like that. But it's like they don't take those shots often, and if they do, like, they're not really gonna hit it.
Yeah, I'm still going to go with KD, but again, just like the conversation with the Steph versus Magic for a point guard, I can understand why people take Steph. Like, and I'm going to say this, and I can hear your rebuttal, so I agree with the point that you're going to make, but, you know, like, KD can score anywhere on the court. So can Steph, you know. But KD's 7 feet. He's unreal. He can shoot from 3, mid, and inside. There's been times where we've seen Steph be locked down as well. Like this year, he you know, didn't have a good start to the season. Obviously, he's doing fine now. He figured it out. He got into his groove. But I think those two, and just to think about, you know, you take it for granted, but the fact that we were able to see them both play on the same team is absolutely gross.
Mm-hmm.
That's disgusting. That will go down as the best team of all time, 100%.
One thing I do want to say is Steph didn't really have a bad start because of him being locked down. You can't guard Steph Curry. It's just if he misses a shot, you just gotta thank God at that point.
Yeah.
It's not really up to him. Like, it's not about the way they're guarding him. Nobody's really shutting him down. Even the shots he's making, yeah, there's good defense, but you can't shut that guy down.
Yeah.
Similar with Durant, similar with LeBron, you can't shut these guys down. All you can do is try to slow them down.
That's true. You know, very, very true. Because makes me think, like, Steph's shooting ability makes me think to, I guess, did you see how Lethal Shooter, that guy, like, commented on Steph's shot and saying, like, how kids these days, like, they want to be doing, like, you know, the off balance threes of this and that, shooting like Steph, and they're just like, no knock to Steph, but like that's terrible shooting. Like, you don't be shooting like that. But Steph has mastered the art of shooting to the point where it's like he's able to now make those shots look easy, make those shots like whenever, essentially. And Steph agreed. He was like, yeah, he's like, if kids come into the court, start trying to pull off shots like I'm pulling off, it's like, that's bad basketball. He's like, don't do that like when you're first starting out, because you're going to get benched by your coach and you're not going to get the minutes.
Because you're not going to be hitting those shots deep. Yeah,
exactly.
Like,
even if you hit them, some coaches are going to be like, stop taking those, just take a regular shot.
Yeah. But unless you're Steph, because again, like you're gonna hit it. Mm-hmm. You just gotta pray. You gotta just pray he misses. That's it.
That's it.
Similar to the Warriors and Steph, my take stays in the West, but it has to do with the team that's just below the Warriors, and it's the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns right now are on a 10-game win streak.
Is it 10?
They've been dominant. Yeah.
I thought it was more. I swear I just read it was like 12.
I think it's 11 or something.
10. No. Oh, it is 12. You're right. You're right. My bad. Yeah. 12-game win streak, so even better.
Yeah. It's fucked.
I think this team is gonna finish top of the West. I think, you know, the Warriors are obviously a very good contender to do that. They're a good contender to win the league. Mm-hmm. I like Phoenix has everything, and we've seen them. You know, last year they did very well. Last year they were a game shy of winning the West. Last year Utah ended up winning it. They've got a traditional big center, DeAndre Ayton, who's playing great. They've got Mikal Bridges, you know, a secondary, tertiary scorer, a guy that can hit a three, a guy that can slash. They got Chris Paul, an unreal leader, a great point guard. We're talking about point guards with Magic and Steph. Yeah. Chris Paul's that guy, like as a prototypical point guard. And then, of course, they got Devin Booker, who's lights out, can shoot from anywhere, basically anywhere on the court. He's unreal. And so I just think that this team, with their depth, with, you know, similar to what we were talking about with the Bucks, they bring back the same roster. And as last year for the most part. I think they're going to do well, and I think they're going to finish top of the West. And that's kind of me putting my fist in my mouth, because I said after the playoffs last year, I said this team's not going to do anything. Like, I don't. And do I think that they're going to make the finals? Honestly, probably not. But I still don't agree with Chris Paul going there, because I think if he wants to win a chip, he could have had a better opportunity somewhere else. But the Suns are proving me wrong again. We're only a quarter of the way through the season, but the Suns are off to another hot start, and it's exciting because I like small market teams doing well as well.
What if he would have went to like the Lakers instead of like Russ?
I wouldn't have liked that, and that's what I said. I was like, I don't want him. I don't want to see him go to a super team, because that I wouldn't like if he went to the Nets. Like, I wouldn't like if he went to. I know Philly's kind of in a different stage now, but Philly, or you know what I mean? Like, even with the Clippers, like, Kawhi's injured for the whole season, but even with the Clippers, like, it's too much.
So where would you, like, other than Phoenix, where would you have liked to have seen him go?
I don't know. I did this a while ago. I can't remember what I ended up saying, but like the Heat, if they didn't get Kyle Lowry, the Heat would have been cool. Like, the Knicks would have been nice to see. Like, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. But I mean, the reason I don't like him going to the Suns is just because I don't think he's gonna have a chance. But again, anything can happen. Like, we didn't think that the Lakers would be doing this ass at the start of the season. So,
yeah, that's true.
Are you still holding by your take that the Jazz are going to go to the finals?
You know what? I don't want to see the Jazz go to the finals now.
I want?
You know who I want in the finals?
Who?
I want the Nuggets, and I want Miami. I just want to see that. Give me a Royal Rumble in the NBA Finals. We got. I'm going to talk about it here in a bit, but MPJ and Murray are out right now, so let's sub in the Jokic brothers. Have 3 Jokic's out there. As a Clippers fan, we'll give the other Morris, to the Miami Heat, and they could just like get a little rumble going. It'd be sick.
That'd be sick. Jeez.
No, I mean, the Jazz would be nice, but again, I can understand like why some people wouldn't want to see them. They're just a very like, kind of like what the Spurs were. They're a very like fundamentals, basics team. They're not exciting. There's nothing really flashy about them. But I don't know. In terms of the market, I don't think the NBA Adam Silver wants Jazz in there either, because it's not going to sell a lot of tickets. Imagine it's Utah versus like. Imagine it's Utah versus Cleveland. Imagine how boring that would be. Or like Utah versus Washington. It'd be so boring.
And isn't Sexton out now for the rest of the season?
Well, that's a great segue actually, Chris, because I was going to bring up injuries, and how do you guys think that these? There's been a couple major injuries, some that were before the season, and some that have just happened recently. Some guys are out for the full season. Some guys are out for a couple months. Most notably, Colin Sexton of the Cavs. I was saying on this podcast a couple weeks ago how I think the Cavs are going to make the play-in tournament without Colin Sexton. How much does that change? They're doing well right now, but Colin Sexton, he's kind of an engine to that team. MPJ is now likely going to be out the entire season, so they don't have Murray, and now they're losing MPJ. Like, how does that look for the Nuggets? Jokic is going to have to take even more on, I think, to get Murray halfway through. Kawhi's out, obviously, for the Clippers. Zion is out for the Pelicans. Like, how do you think these teams, so, the Nuggets, the Cavs, the Clippers, and the Pelicans, how do you think these teams are going to do without their major players? Because these are all kind of their major stars, except for the Nuggets one, but those are 2 really good players on the Nuggets. How do you think that these are going to, help or hurt the teams for the rest of the season?
Chris?
Well, I think as far as like the Cavs go, the Cavs do have like a solid backup in like Ricky Rubio. I feel like he's definitely been stepping up.
He's been doing unreal.
Again. And then you even could have like a sneaky guy in like Evan Mobley, right? Because like he can bring up the ball. He's got decent ball handling skills, things like that. If you want to switch it up, because you already do run basically, 4 bigs like out on the floor as it is right now. So I think the Cavs could make a pivot and they could still do fairly well throughout the season. As far as Denver goes, I just think that extra load on Jokic is going to be a lot. Like, to take on, the additional scoring, take on all of that stuff, that's probably going to burn them out a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's going to probably affect them like long term, anything. So, and then what were
Um,
the other teams you mentioned?
Clippers with Kawhi and Zion with the Pelicans.
Clippers with Kawhi, I don't really see anything wrong with like the Clippers. Actually, honestly, PG has been picking it up. Like he's been playing really, really, really well, and the Clippers have
Yeah.
been doing a lot better. So like I don't really, there's no worry with like the Clippers there. Kawhi's going to come back. He's probably just going to come back into the system. The system will just go on as it is, and Zion, Zion's just a big body Benz right now, bro. So
Yeah. He's
he'd
dusty
probably
though.
just
He's
be
sitting on the
he'd
shelf.
probably
He's
just
pretty
be moving
dusty.
slow on the court right now unless
Yeah.
he gets his conditioning up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I still think the Pelicans will still be junk. Yeah.
no, I
What do you
think,
think?
yeah, the Colin Sexton situation is just unfortunate because
hmm
it is a contract year for him.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say he was balling out, but they were doing good with him on the court.
He's
hmm
doing well.
Now,
Yeah.
there were times that I was watching the game and I'm like, stop taking the shot. Just pass the ball, get Garland involved, get the other guys involved, but still, the guy's not doing bad. And that's just unfortunate. So, with that said, I do think that Cleveland are going to probably be worse without him.
Sure. Yeah.
And same thing with Nuggets, man. MPJ, as much as he wasn't doing as good as we wanted him to do, he was still a big piece, and defense had to actually take care of him instead of doubling Jokic and putting their entire focus on Jokic. So,
hmm
and yeah, it's gonna be a tough season for the Nuggets. I think they might actually be close enough to fall out of the playing tournament.
Yeah. If we look at the standings right now, the Nuggets are sitting at sixth. So they're in right now in terms of the playoffs. Obviously, there's still a lot of season to be played. Um, you got a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves. If they get hot and they stay hot, which they are right now, 3 wins in a row, they could start to take that position. The Trailblazers, if they start to figure it out, the Lakers, they start to figure it out. The Grizzlies, like there's some teams that are like waiting in the wings, and if
hmm
one of those teams above, like the Nuggets, the Mavericks, Clippers, and then I think Jazz, Suns, and Warriors are pretty solid. But if any of those teams start to slip, like there's someone waiting to take their spot.
Oh, and isn't Luca out with an injury or something too? Is it just like minor
Mm,
thing or
Just it's like day to day, yeah,
okay? So it's not too
yeah,
bad.
it's
Okay.
nothing big. But yeah, well with MPJ too, like we were doing our pre-prediction awards, and I think all of us or most of us had MPJ as most improved guy. Like
hmm
there's a role step up for him. There's an opportunity for him. Um, it was up to him to kind of take the bull by the reins and be that secondary guy, and not really his fault, but unfortunately he's got nerve issues that might be putting him out for the whole season. Which I didn't look too much into it, but obviously, going back to when he was in college in Missouri, he only played like 2 or 3 games, and that was because he had back issues. And I'm hopeful that it's not related, this injury right now, I'm hopeful that it's not related to the injury that he had back then, because that wouldn't be good.
I'm just looking back through my notes. I did not have PJ. I had him last year.
Yeah, I think he might have just been a mention
Yeah.
in the conversation. But yeah. Yeah, it just says that he has nerve issues that could
Yeah.
jeopardize his season. Okay, so those were the takes of the week. So we got into a bit of the injury. Before we get into your segment here, Sea of Ash, I want to bring up some other news that was recently in the NBA, but more so on the outside of the NBA. The Lakers, after 22 years, being the Staples Arena. We were talking about references to NBA players and rap songs before we started the episode. Staples Arena has been talked about in rap songs. I know Drake has mentioned it a couple times. They're now going to be changing as of December 1st, I think, or Christmas, sometime in December, to Crypto.com Arena. What are your thoughts on the name change?
I had the app downloaded on my phone, the crypto.com app, and up until that moment that I heard the news, I did not sign up for it. When I heard the news, I signed up for it.
Yeah.
That's it. No other difference.
Yeah.
No, the
I
name is
just
legendary, man. The name Staples Center has been the
yeah,
name, I don't know for how long, but it's just a legendary
22
name.
years. Yeah,
22 years. It's just incredible. So,
yeah,
it's different. I don't know how I feel about it. It's like
sure.
the Madison Square Garden. You can't change the garden's name,
No,
right? That's what it's
it's
known as.
difficult.
So, it's a
I was
good
gonna
name.
ask, what do you think is a worse name? Because I don't really like the if it was Crypto Arena or Crypto Center, that's different. But it's the .com that gets me.
Yeah.
What do you think is a worse arena name, Crypto.com Arena or the Smoothie King Arena, which is where the New Orleans Pelicans play?
Smoothie King
Smoothie
for
King
sure.
Arena? Yeah, that's
Smoothie
That's for
King
sure. That's
Arena. Yeah,
trash. Do they
yeah.
serve do they serve smoothies in the game? Like what's
I
the
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Whoever the Smoothie King is, they bought the naming rights, and yeah, I've never heard of Smoothie King, so obviously they have money stashed up somewhere.
yeah. That's a tough one though when a stadium like name changes like that because like obviously Raptors fans like we went through that when it went from like the ACC to the Scotiabank Arena, and it's like
Yeah,
for the longest time I was like, man, I fucking hate the Scotiabank. I hate that name. It sucks. Like I love the ACC. That sounds sick. It was good. Rolled
hmm
off the tongue. But now obviously like after years it grows on you. So crypto.com arena people
yeah.
people just
I think it'll end up
calling it like
being
the CCA or whatever just to shorten it up.
yeah. I think it'll be probably be shortened down to Crypto Arena like throughout its time because people won't want to say the .com. But I did see a post and it was like on Twitter and they were talking like, do they know like that the Bloods and the Crips are like in LA? Like maybe they should have picked a different arena
Uh,
name for LA. Like because it's gonna get shortened down to the Crip Arena and then people are gonna be like, yo, what's your affiliation
yeah.
here? So
be
maybe
funny if
some
LeBron says
deeper
that.
thought.
If LeBron at
Yeah.
a press conference says like, so we're at the crypto arena.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the naming rights should have been, I think, thought about it a little bit more. But moving off that, kind of boring stuff. I just wanted to get your input on that. But Sevash, yeah, I have a segment here. I'm excited for it. Break it down. Tell us about it.
One of the podcasts that I listen to religiously is the Mismatch Podcast on
Mhm.
The Ringer, and that is hosted by Chris Vernon and Kevin O'Connor, two important voices in this league. So these guys played a game that I think we could implement into our podcast. It's a great game. I want to give them the credit, and I think it's a game that every person should play because it just opens up a lot of conversation. They call this game "That's True," "That Might Be True," and "That's Ridiculous." So
Okay.
I'll tell you a few statements, and you tell me if that's true, that might be true, or if that's ridiculous.
Okay.
Okay? I'll get started with a very simple one. I think this is kind of easy to get started. Scotty Barnes is the best rookie on the Raptors since Vince Carter. Chris? Hello?
That might be true. It might
Who
be
would you
true.
say is the
I
other
think back
option?
to like Chris Bosh and things like that. That's why,
That's true.
and whatnot. So
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Chris. Without the numbers in front of me, I would say that might be true.
yeah.
I'm not a Chris Bosh fan. I've never really liked Chris Bosh. I understand he's a good player. I've never really liked Chris Bosh, so my bias is kind of sneaking in there. But
Mhm.
Scotty Barnes is playing unreal. He's playing really well. He's kind of like the image of positionless basketball right now.
Mhm.
So I think he's doing fine for the Raptors.
Yeah.
So that might be true.
All right. This one might upset one of our guys here.
It's me.
No, it's
Oh,
probably
okay.
me. That's probably me.
No, because he just did a Raptors
He
thing,
always
so he's gonna
upsets
try
you.
to.
He always upsets
He'll
you,
be like,
and he never upsets
Michael.
me.
He's gonna be like, Michael Jordan's the 255th best player in the NBA history. Like,
He's
okay,
77th.
yeah,
77th greatest player.
Sorry.
Anthony Edwards is as good as LaMelo Ball.
I can feel you guys looking at me.
Yeah.
Like I love Ant Edwards. I think he's balling out. He's doing really good. Um, LaMelo just does more. Like he's more of a well-rounded player. Like again, that's no knock on Ant. I love him. I think he's alongside with Ja, one of my favorite young players in the league right now. I love his tenacity. But I'm gonna say LaMelo Ball. So it's not true, but it's not fully over to the right. It's kind of, maybe in between
Middle.
the
So
that might be true, and that's
So
not true.
it's Anthony
There's
Edwards is
there's
as
room for
good as
growth.
LaMelo, is what we were saying?
Better, I
Better.
said, I think.
Better.
No, I'm saying he's as good.
That's
Okay,
good.
then sure. Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, that might be true.
I would say that is true. I'll definitely say that is true. I obviously the position that LaMelo plays, it gives him more opportunity to have the ball and showcase some of his skills versus like Anthony. So I think it just if they had equal ball time, I think it would be apparent that like they are both just as good as like one another.
That's right.
Maybe even give Anthony a smidge of a.
But I'd be interested to see. I'm gonna pull it up. I'd be interested to see how many more boards LaMelo is averaging than. So if we just look at it this year Ant's got 22.5 points, 6.2 rebounds, and 3.4 assists, and LaMelo has. That's just this year. LaMelo has 19.3 points, so less points, 7.8 rebounds, and 7.7 assists. Field goal percentage 41.7%. From 3, 38.8. Field goal percentage for Ant Edwards 33.3, and from 3, 35.7. So there's trade-offs in both aspects, but even as a point guard, again, one of the best things about LaMelo, same thing as Luka, these point guards have size. They can go in. They're not afraid to go and grab a rebound.
Okay.
Those are some terrible percentages.
They can't all be shooting like us, all right? See?
Yeah.
I know, but
We're out here shooting probably high 50s. It's crazy.
50s, yeah, I bet.
70s, but 70s.
Yeah, don't sell it short. Don't sell it short.
Yeah, I was trying to be humble, all right?
Yeah. All right. This one might be a little hot. I'll just give it to you. Zion will not be on the Pelicans in 5 years.
That is true.
Yeah, that is true. I agree with that. That is true.
No faith on the Pelicans.
I don't even think the Pelicans are going to be in New Orleans in 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, I got nothing. The Smoothie King Arena, it doesn't even matter that they named it that. It's going to be gone.
Arena.
Yeah. Now, take New Orleans and move them to Seattle. Sacramento deserves a franchise more than New Orleans does.
Sacramento or Seattle?
Sacramento deserves one. So if I was to move two teams, it would either be Sacramento or it would be New Orleans to move to Seattle. And I'm saying Sacramento deserves.
Oh, you're saying.
Okay,
Oh,
sorry, I was
so confused.
Yeah.
How bad do you think Seattle fans are just sitting there biting their nails every day that the Pelicans are losing? They're just like, let's see what's gonna happen here.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. I wonder. Like maybe even like if they move to Seattle, like I bet you Zion would be more inclined to stay if they moved to Seattle than if they stayed in New Orleans.
No, Jumbo, bro, come on.
What's that?
That
Jambalaya? But bro, it's probably the jambalaya that's got Zion so big right now. It's all you can eat seafood, all the drinks, all the bro. He's got.
And that guy, he's a big market player.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big market player. He doesn't want to be in New Orleans. It's the same thing with Anthony Davis. He doesn't want to play in New Orleans.
Yeah.
But if that team moves to Seattle, that's a big market, and that's a hungry market for an NBA franchise. And they got a ML. They literally have every other league in Seattle, but they don't have the NBA. And
Do you think eventually the NBA will look into an expansion and add some more teams, especially if you have all these other teams? Like the NFL right now is discussing potentially expanding to 4 more teams. You obviously have the NHL has added 2 more teams in the last few years.
I think so, and I think honestly it comes back to the NHL. The NHL, the 4 major North American sports, is easily the lowest in terms of like revenue and just in terms of watched time. And we've seen, like you mentioned, in the past couple of years they've added 2 teams this year. Most recently is the Seattle Kraken, and then a couple of years ago was the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And the success that the Golden Knights have been in the playoffs every single year since they got there. The first year they were in the finals. So the success that the league and these teams are seeing from those markets, again, relatively big markets in Seattle and Vegas. I think other teams are watching, like the NFL, and they say, okay, if the NHL can do it on that level and they're getting a lot of money, towards their league. Think about what we can do in the NFL. Let's go to Mexico. Let's go to Toronto as the
Yeah.
NFL. You know what I mean? So I think the NBA is right there. I would love to see the NBA expand and bring in some more teams.
How many teams do you think they would bring in? Sorry to cut you off.
Two.
See. Two?
Two, I think so. Yeah, I think like I understand why the NHL brought one in at a time, but I think the NBA has enough, success not only in America but internationally in China and whatnot. I think that they could bring in two at a time. I would like to see, obviously Seattle get one. I wouldn't mind seeing Vegas get an NBA team. Kansas City get a NBA team. So it'd be cool. Even Vancouver would be sick. Like
bring
obviously
me a
it's the
Vancouver
Memphis
team
Grizzlies
back.
but it'd be cool to see a Vancouver team.
Yeah.
All right, on the next one, there's no easy way to say this. DeMar DeRozan is the most underrated player for the past decade.
The past decade.
Yes.
That's a hard thing to try to quantify. The past decade?
Past decade. This guy was in top 10 points scored in the past decade. He's been a multiple-time All-Star. He's been on teams that have gone through playoffs. He's led teams into the playoffs.
Yeah.
He got traded for a guy who took the Raptors to the finals.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Kawhi. I'll say that might be true just because I don't know. Like there could be somebody else out there. Like
who?
I'm just saying that's what I mean. It might be true. Like someone could. And I'm gonna say it, and I know you guys are gonna freak out, but I'm just bringing this name up. So Paul George could be mentioned.
That fucking guy, I knew it.
I'm not saying that's who it is, but I'm just saying there's other players out there that we could have that conversation about. I just don't have the list in front of me.
Paul George is properly rated.
Yeah, I was gonna say
sometimes.
I don't think at any point in Paul George's career has anyone said Paul George is underrated. The people
Yeah,
have
sometimes
given Paul George the due respect that he's deserved, minus that exception with that year where they had the bubble, and yes, he was going through like his mental health struggles, things like that. But
I think there's
people haven't really shit on him and said like, "Oh, he's underrated."
He was actually overrated at the start of his career in Indiana.
I think he's been overrated in some aspects, and I think he's been underrated in some aspects. I think if we look at it, I'm not saying that that's the guy that I would take over DeMar. I'm just saying that there are other guys. I just don't have a list in front of me, so I can't look. But like OKC year. Probably underrated because people didn't think he was doing that. Even this year, probably underrated because people didn't think he was going to do that. You know what I mean? So, but there's been years where he's been
underrated in OKC.
Yeah, people didn't think he was going to do that. That's what I mean. People didn't think he was going to do that. The general consensus didn't think that he was going to do that. The general consensus didn't think he was going to do that this year. I'm not saying that he's underrated for the past 10 years, but he's been overrated in some years. I think he's been underrated in others, which would level out to be properly rated, like Chris mentioned.
DeMar is like averaging, I don't know how many points a game. I haven't heard his name once.
Yeah,
MVP
conversation. I have. I've heard him. I've seen him multiple times on the NBA.com MVP ranking. Multiple times. Multiple weeks.
But that's
like, I can literally look right itself.
Now. But that's what I'm saying. I haven't heard it anywhere other than there. Like, that's the only place you tell me. But that's the league kind of doing it. The writers, whoever the media is actually doing that.
And that's what I was saying about Paul George.
Yeah,
I would say
I'm going with DeMar every time.
Again, I'm not saying that I would take Paul George over DeMar in the most underrated player in the past 10 years. I need to see more players. I need to see comparables. You're bringing up stats. Like, there could be someone else out there. Like, Damian Lillard for years was talked about being the most underrated. I think sometimes Damian Lillard is overrated, to be honest with you. I think people value him a bit more. But for years, he was underrated. So I think DeMar DeRozan is definitely a good candidate. Like, he's been that guy in a lot of the scenarios. Unfortunately for DeMar, he's been that guy in markets that don't really get a lot of attention. So it's kind of quiet. DeMar was loved in Toronto. You know what I mean? He was loved in Toronto. There was no quiet noise whenever it came to Toronto Raptors fans. But in terms of the rest of the conglomerate of the NBA, sure. Same with San Antonio. No one's talking about DeMar in San Antonio because they weren't good. But now that he's in Chicago, they're doing well.
See, like I don't know. Like I'm probably gonna say like yes. I'm gonna agree and say that's that is true that DeMar has been underrated for the last 10 years. Because I can't remember what
The most he's saying
the
though. That's
most.
why I'm saying it might be true because I don't know.
I'm gonna say
Might be true.
yes. I'm
But
gonna
that's what I'm
say
saying. Until
yes.
we say another name,
Yeah,
that stands
until
for now.
there's like another name that.
Let me. You know what? Next week I'll come with a name for you
Okay.
because I don't have any
On-
names in front of
only
me, so I
People
because-
can
can't. I
say
can't
Mike
rebuttal.
Conley. They could say any other name.
Yeah.
Even Lillard, right? Like I'll agree with you. Like some guy on the podcast last year was telling us about how Lillard's a better point guard than Steph. Like
Yeah, at the time he
Lillard's been
was.
overrated.
At the time he was.
Yeah, no, I don't want to hear it.
At the time he was.
Been overrated, right? And
What's that?
again, Lillard been overrated at times.
Yeah, I agree. But at a
And-
time in his career, he was underrated.
That was like 5 years ago. Since
Exactly.
then,
That's in the
he's been
past 10
under-
years, though. That's in the past 10 years.
But that's what I'm saying. DeMar, like every year, bro. Outside of Raptors fans, I don't hear anybody taking DeMar over anybody else.
Yeah, like DeMar DeRozan, number 5 on MVP right now on NBA.com.
And that's not even me being like, oh yeah, this guy's on my team now. That's just a realization of like, nah, chill.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. Because I've never heard you mention DeMar DeRozan until he's on Chicago. So, yeah. See, we caught him now. He's feeling good.
Listen, bro. MVP.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, he definitely could, but the problem, I think, the thing that's holding DeMar DeRozan back if he was to win MVP, and I think we talked about this last week or a couple weeks ago, is there's so many people on his teams that are doing well. You know what I mean? They've got Lonzo, they've got Zach LaVine, so it's kind of difficult to give the MVP to one guy. DeMar DeRozan has definitely been a great player on the Chicago Bulls this year, but there's a lot of guys that are putting in a lot of work on that team. Like, they have a solid big four, honestly. They have a solid big four on that team. And I saw your guy Kobe White checked in for the first time this season, last game.
Back. I haven't watched him yet, but I've heard he's been doing okay. He's not forcing things. He's just playing along everybody else. And that's what
How do you think they're going to go the rest of the season? Like, do you think Kobe White's going to be a potential trade candidate? If they, obviously, I think we can all agree Chicago's making the playoffs. They're not even going to be playing in the play-in. Do you think that, they might take a look at Kobe and maybe use him in another piece to get something stronger? What do you see as Kobe's future for the rest of the season?
I think they should. I think they should look into those names because I heard a trade a while back, Chris Boucher for Kobe White.
Actually,
I don't know if
that's
I would
actually
take
really
that.
funny that like you talk about Chris Boucher and Kobe White because I was actually just gonna make a comparison between the two because like with Chris Boucher, especially like this year, he's been struggling and whatnot. And I think,
He's not been doing well.
yeah, and I think there's just been some like, it's that added pressure. You have Scotty Barnes, you have other players who are doing these big things, and I feel like Boucher has been trying to force things and trying to make shots and trying to make things work. And by doing so, all he's doing is making himself look worse and, missing like big shots, missing like easy things and stuff. And I kind of feel like, with DeMar, Lonzo, Levine, Caruso, things like that, I feel like it's
Vucevic.
it's going to be tough for Kobe to also do those things too. And he might start forcing shots, start doing things he doesn't normally do and not playing his game and make himself kind of like look a little worse. Like, unless he he kind of figures it out. But I didn't watch him like play last night, so I don't really know how he played and whatnot. Because I kind of think Boucher is starting to figure that out, and he's settling down. He's not forcing shots anymore. He's not doing some of the things he was doing at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think we got to trade Kobe for a power forward or somebody that can play that stretch position.
I agree. Getting a stretch forward would be perfect for that roster right now. Like, if you could get Thad Young back, that'd be nice.
I wish.
Yeah. Do you think San Antonio would do that? A 1-for-1
No.
Thad Young because Thad Young's not. He's not. True. Yeah, Thad Young's not playing in like the starting roster right now. So
I don't know even if he's playing. I think he was injured or something.
no, he is. He was backing up for Pirtle while he was out for a bit. But one more question before we sign off. I want to do this every week. Take a look at the standings if you have them up near you. If you don't, pull them up. Maybe Chris, pull them up on your phone so your computer doesn't go wonky. Take a look at the standings and what team do you think is going to change their position or change their look in the standings by the time we record next week. So obviously, we've got a team like Atlanta on a 4-game win streak, but they're still sitting at 11th, just above Chris's Raptors. The Bulls are on a 2-game win streak at number 1. The Clippers are at 4. We were just talking about the Nuggets, and they've lost a couple guys. What team do you guys think, East or West, doesn't matter, is going to change their position by next week?
Yeah, go first.
I think the Bucks are not going to be on the 8th seed next week. I think they're going to be definitely above that. The next 3 games, I think they're playing the Magic, the Pistons, the Nuggets. I think that will be a good 3-game win streak for them.
Mm-hmm. I think I agree with you. See, like looking at their schedule, I even think they could beat the Nuggets if they go out, right? Because they got Magic, Pistons, Nuggets, and even the Pacers and Hornets. They could probably, although it was impressive, the Hornets gave Golden State like an L. So
yeah.
So actually, I don't.
So what would be your
Hornets.
pick?
I'm gonna say the actually. Let me look at the Hornets too. Who are they playing? Ooh, I feel like Hornets could make a big push too. The only team that kind of worries me is the Wizards. Them playing the Wizards.
Yeah, the Wizards are definitely an interesting team because at first I looked at them and I'm like, I could see them dropping down a bit, but I'm like, they've been doing well. Like, they're not on a hot streak or anything, but they've been doing well.
I'll stick with like C's thing too as well and say like definitely like the Bucks will probably make a push and we'll see them rise a little bit.
I'm gonna go over to the West, and I think the Trailblazers, they're on a 3-game win streak right now. I think they're gonna start to figure it out. We talked about the Nuggets, them losing some pieces. The Nuggets are just above them. The Mavericks, they're kind of putting things together, but they are on a 3-game losing streak. I think the Trailblazers, who are basically tied with them right now in terms of points and wins and losses, I think the Trailblazers will end up moving up a bit. Not saying it's 2 spots, but even if it's just a switch of the Nuggets and the Trailblazers, I think we'll start to see a bit of a shift in the West. But I think those 3 teams...
I think it depends, though, because, like, they've got... Yeah, they're playing the Nuggets, and with them missing, like, MPJ, like, they could maybe beat them now, but...
Oh, I'm not even looking at the schedule. I'm just kind of
they're playing the Warriors, like, in a couple days, like, on Friday, and then they're playing, like, the Kings. So the only games that I feel like they could... It's maybe a lock is maybe the Kings, and then... I see them taking an L to the Warriors, so I don't know if their position is really going to change too much.
Yeah, I'm not looking at the schedule. Like I don't have the schedule in front of me. I'm just looking at in terms of the actual standings.
Yeah,
I think the Trailblazers, and I'm going to ride the hot hand, and I'm going to say that they're gonna move up because I just think the Nuggets are going to have a bit of a struggle. Even Jokic, he was out a couple games last week. So
and you know what?
We'll see.
Maybe it's a tough schedule looking at the Nuggets too, right? They got the Bucks, they got the Heat. And they got the Magic and the Knicks.
Yeah.
For like
they will likely lose 3 of those 4 games.
Yeah.
Like Magic could even beat them depending on, with the injuries, how it affects them. If Jokic needs, maybe some load management.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alrighty, there was another week, another episode of the Lob It Up podcast. We got into the Malice in the Palace 2.0 in this NBA climate, the softer version of the Malice in the Palace. We got into Steve Ash's breakdown of, what was it called again? We got to think of a name for that segment. A quick name for that segment.
For now, we're calling it That's True, That Might Be True, and That's Ridiculous.
We got into some takes there, some takes from this week, some takes from, the season ahead. I think the Suns are going to finish out on top in the West, and we looked at this next week ahead, figured out who's going to switch their positions, who's going to maybe decrease down a little bit. Maybe the Lakers can keep it going. I don't know. It'll depend on, if LeBron ends up getting suspension or not. But until next week,